Hey guys, welcome to my tutorial. A lot of people asked me how did I build my simulator, so here it is. I decided to build another one just to show you the process. This video is going to focus on the hardware, so we're going to talk about wood, carpet, metal, all that kind of stuff. And I'll make a second part where I'm going to talk about all the electronics, how to connect the gauges and how to connect the buttons, etc. If you're interested in how to make the steering wheel, the link is in the description. So what you can do, you can drive around Nordschleife in a GT3 car with working gauges, with working navigation. You can see Waze is showing the map there of the racetrack. You can play in any kind of car you want. You can go into Japan and play in Shutoku. You can drive with traffic. You can drive all sorts of different cars. So of course, it's a game that never stops giving. The mod community is amazing. So you can use the 6-speed manual transmission. You can press buttons to and map them to whatever you want. The radio is actually uh, using the sound from the PC, so you can change volume. You can drive a truck in American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator. I have a turn stock that I built into my simulator, so you can use that. That's a lot of fun. The wipers also work. The triple screen helps a lot as well, so you can have situational awareness. You can look to the sides. Helps with immersion too. But if you're feeling more adventurous, you can just roll down ramps and jump cars off of huge ramps and play with any kind of car in BeamNG. Just a fantastic game to just goof around for hours nonstop. Okay, now without any further ado, let's get started. So, where do you buy parts? Well, you start where the best place to buy parts is, the junkyard. There's junkyards called Easy Pull It, Pick and Pull, You Pull It. There are several names for it. But they're great places to buy parts for cheap. You can take them apart yourself and then you're going to put it back together. That's going to be very helpful. You can find BMWs, Audis, Mercedes, any kind of car. Obviously, they have to be a little older, but like this example here. And there you have it. Just take it apart, all the parts, steering wheel, dashboard, that metal piece. It's very helpful. And here it is, just at the exit of the junkyard. Great place. I'll put the link down in the description. If you're in Central Florida, easy pull it. It's a very good place. Now let's talk about cost breakdown. So for carts, we're going to talk about car parts. We're going to talk about wood, metal, gaming accessories, computer, TV, monitor. We're going to talk about add-ons, and we're going to talk about Arduino and LCD. We're going to start with car parts. So I pulled most of the parts from that place, but I had to buy parts here and there. At Pasco EZ Pull, I spent $206, but in total around $350. Feel free to pause the video if you want to see the prices in detail. I'm going to break them down. Wood, metal. So wood, $120. Carpet, just about 80. Metal, to a total of $250. Then there's gaming accessories. Moza R9 bundle. I use pedals and USB handbrake and shifter. Those are just generic ones. So just about $1,000. Computer, you can go anywhere you want. You can spend a lot of money or you can spend a little less, enough to run the game. TV, monitor, this is just an example. Here I'm picking parts as an example, not my setup. And add-ons are Philips Hue and butt kicker, so you can get those to add more immersion sticks to your game. You also need Arduino and LCD. So if you want a navigation screen, if you want to make the buttons work, I use an Arduino. Arduinos are cheap and they're very easy to find on Amazon. So here's my breakdown. And this is an example. With about $4,300, you can get a complete car simulator. So here's a Fusion 360 project that I did, link in the description. So let's start taking apart. First, let's take apart the dashboard. Okay, so now it's easier to see. We removed the dashboard, which is over there, and this came from the car. Every time you go and you try to find a car at the junkyard, see if you can remove this from the car. So in the Volvo, you can actually remove these bolts and easily take this out. This is good because of several reasons. One, it's metal, so it's a very rigid surface, so you can mount your 2x6. Another benefit is you have the original mounting screws. So you have all the original places where you can actually bolt your dashboard back again. So in this case, we have two here, three, four, and five, and then six and seven. Oh, eight, right here. This is where the cluster is connected. So you can mount your dashboard way easier if you have this part. Now, some cars you can't take this out. This happened to the BMW E60 I built, and that's not a big issue. The only main difference is you'll have to find other ways to secure your dashboard to the wood, but we'll get to that later. Now, all we have to do is take a measurement and make sure that the size that we have is going to be correct. So we have 58 inches or 1 meter and 47.5 centimeters. Now, before we start cutting, and we're going to cut now the 2x6s that hold the dashboard to the platform. Now, we want to make sure that we have this height correct. So one thing I would recommend is make sure you cut a little less than you need, because you can always trim a little bit more later. So here in this example, we have 69 centimeters. I'll probably cut like 74, 73 centimeters so I can trim it later, make sure that height is correct. Another thing is at the junkyard, make sure you measure where each thing is before you remove from the car. So if you have the time, just take your time at the junkyard and, like, for instance, you see where the bolts are here, and then measure in relation to the floor of the car. So you'll see here, I have these holes here. These are the holes where this was attached to. And here is the example. So in the real car, what you want to do is make sure you measure where the bolts are in relation to the floor of the car. Now, this is going to be important. It's going to make your lives easier. So it doesn't matter the car you're working with. You want to make sure that you take all the measurements. So how far is this from the floor of the car? What's the distance between here, the seat, and the floor? So those are going to be important things you need later. So you can also find how high is the center console to the seat in relation to the seat, all those little things. So I highly recommend you take all the measurements while you have the car at the junkyard before you remove anything. Let's get started. So now I am cutting all the vertical pieces that will hold the dashboard metal, and we'll be able to attach the dashboard later. All right, now we flipped over the dashboard because you see there's this little sharp turn here. This little piece here is where the trim, the foot trim goes. And this is on the passenger side, but this is just the same on the driver's side. So what we want to do is make sure that the wood is going to be able to screw here. Now, if we take the 2x6 and just try to put it here, you can clearly see if it goes all the way down to the floor, it's not going to go. So what we need to do is have a little piece cut here, just to the right size, that will enable us to screw on this side to the wood, and this needs to be secured to the rest of the 2x6s. But it needs to be a smaller piece so it doesn't go all the way down, and when we put the foot trim here, that's also going to fit in here. So this is the next thing we're going to do. And coincidentally, the pieces that were left from the 2x6 that we need to cut, we exactly have two of these, or we actually just need one, because the measurement here is about 5 centimeters, and these 5 centimeters here we can cut like a few pieces if we need, but we just need two, and we need it to be 28 centimeters by 5 centimeters. And the way we do is just we measure here, and the measurement here is just about 28 centimeters, and here's about 5. So that's what we need right now. So we're gonna do some more cutting. So now what we're going to do is, this is the part that's going to be on the side. So just for your context, the dashboard is going to be screwed right here onto this piece. This is that clearance we needed because of the contour of the dashboard. So this piece, this 2x6, is going to be connected to other 2x6s. And to do that, what we're going to use is pocket holes. This is one of the best things for a construction like this. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's going to be covered by carpet. So it's just simple to make pocket holes. So we're going to have a couple here, 2 or 3. This is not going to be super abused. So just 3. That's, I think 3 would be enough. So we're going to put like 3 pocket holes right here, and then we got to secure this wood to the other woods. We're going to have a row of 3 2x6s as per our plan, just to give enough room so we can have the tabletop that will hold the TV. And then also we're going to have enough rigidity to hold the dashboard back and forth if we need. So this is how it's going to look like. So that's why we have 3. And as you can see, the tiny little piece is right here. So this is what we're going to do right now. We're going to make the pocket holes, and we're not going to forget to do the pocket holes that will secure the piece of wood to the base. This is also important because you don't want that moving around. Now off to drilling, adding these, and then we can start seeing some progress. All right, here's where we're at. So as I showed you before, we put these bolts to hold the metal bracket, the metal frame, and this in the car, thankfully it's horizontal, vertical, so it's just a line. Then we had this little piece here that will give us clearance to get the dashboard on, and then we added 3 2x6 just to add some rigidity. And also this is where we're going to put the table. So actually called a tabletop, but it's just a plywood that will hold the TV. It's going to be here. And as you can see, just by adding that metal, it made my life so much easier. So that's why if you have the chance to remove it from the car, just do it. It's worth it. It already can hold by itself, and the height should be correct because we measured from the car. Now I hand tight all the little bolts, because now the next step here is we have our dashboard secured. It's not going anywhere, especially when we put the pocket screws and tie that to the base. That's not going to move anymore. The next step now is we have to figure out the center console that'll run through there to somewhere over here. We got to figure out the height and how we're going to tie this to the center console. Now next in our list, we make sure we can get the center console aligned with the correct height. So we put it there, and what I like to use is I like to use pieces of wood like this, just so I can find the height. It's kind of a trial and error, but now I think I was lucky and I got it on the first try. So as we proceed, what we want to look for is the correct alignment. And here, kind of lucky that I got the wrong center console, which is tan, obviously, and you can see that the gap is pretty close. I'd say, if anything, it's a little bit too close on the top and a little bit wider on the bottom, but that's not too bad. I can just, it's like millimeter or 2 millimeters. So now we kind of have the correct height that this needs to be from the platform, the ground, and it's just, as you can see, just two pieces of wood on top of each other. If I open up here and look down here, there's this little rubber thing here, and as you can see, there's some holes. Those holes are where the wood's going to be attached. So next up on our list will be measuring and cutting this. This is going to go down, and then we're going to have two pieces of wood that are going to go horizontally towards the dashboard, and those pieces are going to be connected to the metal, so that will give the extra rigidity that we need. So this is going to be holding the dashboard, and this is going to be making sure it won't tilt forward or backwards. And once everything is finished, everything is going to be bolted down to the platform, including here, and that should give plenty of rigidity. I mean, the thing is not going to move. Now, eventually, you're going to be lucky. Like, I was just lucky. There's this piece of wood down here, and it was just laying around from some leftovers, and I just tested, and it connects right there. So you can see the little bit of wood showing up right there. And look at this gap. I'd say it's pretty darn close. This is just perfect. So I have the measurement. That piece of wood is the right measurement. So, as I was saying, this little piece of wood is exactly the size I need in a center console. Now, it's a little bit too thin, so if I just use this here, there's going to be some space towards the sides, and I won't cover both screw holes. Now, what I noticed is if I use a 2x6 instead, I have just the perfect size. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna find the angle here so we can cut and get the wood to rest here. And the way we're gonna do is we're gonna use this little tool, and this will help us find the exact angle. So what we want to do is first find here and then rest it here. So our angle is just about 13 degrees. And let's check on this side. It's about the same. So on the other side, it's 15 degrees. So we have 13 degrees on this side and 15 degrees on that side. And then we also have to measure it. So the measurement that it needs to be, I don't want it to go over this little piece here. So we want it to be just about 20. 20 should be more than enough. 20 centimeters here and 20 here. Just about the same on both sides. All right, so in theory, one side we had 13. This should be the one. And that's pretty close. And the other side is 15 degrees. And that's also pretty close. So now we can get the final measurement how far these two pieces are going to be. So there's an angle here, but that's not a big deal. All right, so here and here. Lastly, we'll mark here, and I'll just use the pencil to mark here. So this is not the one. This is. All right, let's cut. Perfect. Now we can make pocket holes. All right, so here's roughly what we're doing. And there's no right or wrong way to do. What I like to do is I get all the pieces of wood I find in my garage, different thickness and shapes and stuff, and I try to pile them up. So this is just a temporary thing. So you can see here that I have three 2x4s stacked. So there's this like 4.5 inches. And then I have this extra little piece of wood here that's not the, the standard 2x4 width. And that just does it. And the height is pretty much spot on. When you look here, there's a little bit of a gap, which is okay. What we have to do now is figure out the height here. And then I can put two pieces of wood here to support. And we're going to cut the wood here, and then we're going to put another one flat. So the shifter can sit flat on a piece of wood. Then screw the shifter to it. And that'll be pretty sturdy and won't move anywhere. Now for the handbrake, it's a very similar solution. So as you just saw, we had to shift and change this from a vertical position to a slightly more horizontal one. And here's why. So you can see here that it's pretty much like this. Now, in my case, the shifter, the handbrake, needs to be tilted just ever so slightly like this. So this makes my, on the Volvo at least, very tricky because it's slanted here, and that makes it a little bit more tricky. It's doable. It's working on my Simrig. You don't even notice that this is slanted slightly like this because, I don't know. I just don't even remember about it. And then once you put the boot on top of it, the leather boot, it's just seamless and you can't even tell. Now, this is the tricky part. It's going to be hard to show on camera, but I'll try to show it. But the process is very similar to that. We'll find the height that gets the best angle and the best way that the shifter won't catch this very tight space here, and then just screw it down. The 4 bolts that it comes ready with. So yeah, that's the next step right now. Now on the handbrake, here's how it looks now. So I added some pocket holes to this weirdly shaped piece of wood. The key here is to find the shape, and then once you find it, it'll just be way easier. And don't give up until you find it. If it's still catching, if it's not aligning perfectly, just try again. Sometimes it takes a few tries, but it's worth. So there's a slant like this, and it's also like this.
So it's 14 degrees here. If I'm not mistaken, it was 7 degrees back there. And it's straight up here. Then, that works. So if you look in here, that's how it will look like. It's hard to see, but the handbrake is not catching the top of the bottle holder, and it works. So when I pull and it's firm, once I put the boot on top of here, you won't be able to see this, and this should perform just like a regular car, although you can't just lock it. You don't have a button to lock it.
Now, with the center console taken care of, the next step is going to be work on the base. So now I'm cutting all the side pieces that will be supporting the base and assemble them in as square as possible. And so I just use 2x4s cut in half. It just makes it easier. I don't have to be too tall with that, so that works better. And then you just cut the plywood and you cover it. Another small detail, you'll see I'm cutting small pieces of plywood. It's just because I was trying to use everything I had in my garage. Obviously, you can use whole pieces. It's easier. And lastly, for the base, all I'm doing is screwing the top and making sure it won't go anywhere.
So Moza sent this R9 bundle for me. So here's what we have. We have a power cord, just a regular power cord that you'd find on a PC, the same type that goes to the back of your computer. We have some USB cable. This USB cable is one of those like the printers use. We got the power supply, the power brick. Here's the base. All right, it's heavy. Smaller than, it's not as deep as I thought it would be. Here it is. Okay. So the mounting points, as I can see right now, are in the bottom. This is a little different because the Fanatec that I have on my main Simrig, they have mounting points on the side, so we'll have to figure that out.
Well, ooh, that was so close. That's like it's not even not even half an inch. It's not even a 1 centimeter. So we might want to do this, and I don't know if we can count. So future me here. So I had to go with a different solution. I thought I'd be able to cut it and just slide it in, but it wasn't. So what I did in the end was I use a welder. You'll see the process in just a few minutes. And I built a structure around that I could screw it onto the metal. So it just got the angle right, it got the depthness right, and although I had to learn a new skill because I never welded before, and as you can see in the video, it was worth because now it is super sturdy and it works perfectly. So let me walk you through my solution. So what I did was I did cut that piece just to trim it. I didn't need that piece in the front, so you'll see me hammering it down. Just be careful, sharp objects. I filed it a little bit. This is my brother helping. And then I made a new hole. This is where the structure was gonna be bolted to. And it just makes everything sturdier. So here you see me starting the process of welding. I bought some cheap metal at Home Depot, just your regular store. And that's what I built, a little tray table and a structure that would hold it back in an angle and be able to be bolted to that metal structure. I just then sanded, cleaned it up, and then painted on so it wouldn't rust in the future. I know my weld looks awful, first time welder, but I think it will do the job. So now I'm running a dry fit. So I'm just checking if all the pieces, all the plastic trims and everything just pops in place together. Okay, it's me from the future again. You see that green arrow? So that's the piece I added because, as you remember, when I said the height was correct, it wasn't. It needed an extra 2 by 4. So what happened was, I'm a short guy, and when my brother came along and helped me, I noticed that I measured for me, and it wouldn't be comfortable for anybody else. So that's why I added that extra 2 by 4 to the whole structure, without any effort, without bending anything, without making anything look weird. So here you can see that all the gaps are pretty good. They're pretty tight. They're even on both sides. The radio and all the climate control, they're all there. They work. As you just saw, I made this solution for the steering wheel and it looks pretty good. I might 3D print something here just to avoid hitting my knee or somebody's knee here, just while, walking in and out of the car. I'm gonna use some of my scrap wood here and I want to build a retainer wall here in the back. I don't have this in my main Simrig, at least here on the driver's side. I do have on the passenger side, but the idea now is to have a retainer wall that will allow me to put the pedals inverted. And that is something that a lot of people suggest me on Instagram and TikTok. All right, just put the piece here, and now I need to mark where I need to cut because there's this part of the dashboard here that is holding and it's not gonna let me tilt the right way. And as you can see here, that's the part that's just in the way. So what I have to do is draw it, cut it, and then I can go ahead and screw it. Now we're going to put all the pocket holes to secure this part in place. Okay, now I just put there the pedals to make sure the angle is right, the location is right, and I think it is. When you look from here, from what I can tell from the car, is a little skewed towards the right. The accelerator pedal is a little over to the right. There's a bigger gap there, which I'm pretty inclined to build a footrest right there. I mean, why not? You're not supposed to rest your foot on the clutch pedal. And also now next part is I'm gonna cut that little piece of wood right there, and I left that gap there and there so I can route cables. I think the wire for the pedal is gonna go up here on this little corner, but here I can route the power seat cable, and it doesn't really matter that gap over there, so I'm just gonna leave it. And then what else? So when you look from behind, here's what the next cut's gonna be like. And here I removed that little piece of wood right there, this piece that was right there. The reason being, I think a hole there, it'll become very handy. So you see all the cables from the handbrake, the extra USB ports, and the shifter, they can all be routed down there and come out here. So they can come, and then maybe later what I can do is I can put a USB hub somewhere over here, and that will connect to the computer. So I think that'll look nice and will be very functional. Now, on a second thought, and just to make sure everything's gonna be super sturdy, the tabletop I'm going to put here is a 1/2-inch plywood. 1/2-inch plywood is not the sturdiest. So as you can see, the difference is quite noticeable. This is 1/2 inch. This is 3/4 of an inch.
It was 3/4. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't bow here with the weight of the TV. Now, on my main Simrig, I used some leftover plywood that I had, and that is a 3/4 of an inch. Here, just to make sure this is not gonna bow, what I'm planning to do right now is I'm probably gonna get another wood like this, and I'm just gonna go across here and connect them. So this way, when the plywood sits here, it's just gonna sit on top of this, and it's gonna have something to hold here in the center. So it's not gonna bow. TV is not that heavy, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So here is the wood. This is just standing here now. I'm gonna drill a couple pocket holes just to secure them here, but the idea is just to have this right there, so when the plywood sits here, you know, there's something to hold here. This is not the, you know, the most sturdy. I wouldn't be able to stand on it, but definitely it wouldn't bow just with the weight of the TV.
Now we're going to start working on the carpet. So let's take it down and clean it up. Everything needs to be clean, or I'd like to have it clean. So I added those pieces of wood just to give an extra support since I'm using pieces of plywood. And then you just, I don't know how to explain. You just go around and staple all the carpet. And I also made some little holes just so I could use the pocket holes later. Here's how it looks like.
Now that I have finished putting the carpet on this side, let me just give you guys a closer look. It's hard to show, when you're putting carpet. Some parts are not going to be visible, like this part here. So I had to make the holes to mount the metal part here. They need to be visible. So in this case here, I just cut little holes. Put a lot of staples and it's secured. It's still not fixated to the bottom, as you can see. Now, the part that makes it tied to the bottom is right here. So I opened little windows. I don't know if it's hard to see, but there's a little window here that will allow me to put the screw, and this will get the dashboard connected to the platform here. So this makes, that it won't move around or anything like that. This is just a closer look now of where you can, we're gonna put the TV or the monitor. So it's like a tabletop essentially. And it also helps to connect these two pieces. So here is a look of how it looks when it's bare, and now with some carpet. So we're going to continue on. I'm going to just put the carpet on this side, and then we're going to move on to, the smaller pieces like the footrest and where the pedals are. I'm going to have to remove the pedals so I can put the carpet on. I'm also going to have to make markings where the holes are so I can just easily, screw them on. And then it's off to the electronics. Now that I finished adding the carpet onto the passenger side, so as you can see, it's added. Same thing here. The little open spots down the bottom are for the axis for the screws that tie the whole dashboard down to the base. And now what I have to do is tighten up the bolts here that secure the center console. Reason for that is as I make the carpet for this part over here, I want to make sure that, all the spaces are right. So that's why I try to add all the trim pieces that I have. So I'm going to be adding here the side piece, also down here. We're going to figure out how we're going to do this.
Then I just decided to paint the wood so it just looks a little better. I added parts of carpet, and this is what I'm using to secure it. This Velcro thing for cable organizing. I used the Velcro side and I stapled the other side. It came in handy. As you can see, just, I cut it and then I just stapled that Velcro and it holds together pretty well. So it's easy to remove, especially because that part sometimes you need to access to, for USB cable or cleaning or whatever the case may be. It's just easier. So I did the same thing everywhere, all around the center console, and it worked like a charm. As you can see here, I just pull it off and just put it back in place. Now I'm working on the base where the seats are. I just went around it, made the little window for the holes, and then it's just ready to go under the seats. I was lucky with the Volvo because the seat rails are straight. So be careful when you buy seats for your car. Make sure that they're straight. If they're not, you're going to have a little more trouble. And here it is, the finished result of the hardware. Obviously, I will dye the leather seats black, just like I did with my main Simrig, but you can see it looks pretty good. The carpet, everything fits together really well. Now, the second video will show and focus on all the electronics. How do you make the buttons work as pretty much fancy button boxes that can be mapped and used to play. If you came all the way here, just subscribe, hit the like button, and I hope to see you on the second part of the tutorial. Bye.